Imagine walking into a kindergarten classroom, prepared to volunteer for a special art project. A child is visibly upset he can't find his glue stick. He thinks the child across from him took it. He picks up a chair and throws it out a nearby window, shattering the glass. The classroom is evacuated quickly and the emergency response team is notified to guide the child into a self-contained room where he'll spend the next 15 minutes alone, crying, screaming, kicking, swearing. This is an event that occurred at one of the schools I work at, but is it just bad behavior? We need to start taking a deeper look. The National Center for Education Statistics sent out a survey in the 2017 school year. Of the schools that participated, 71% agreed that they had experienced violent acts at their school, with an additional 3% experiencing acts that involved a weapon. 962,300 violent acts occurred, and 476,100 nonviolent acts were reported. Of these schools, 34% of rural schools and 50% of city schools reported they have threat assessment teams to handle these challenging situations. But with a number of challenging situations occurring and a decreased number of resources being provided, what can schools really do? The number one limitation reported was inadequate funding. This leads to the second reported difficulty, a lack of placement and programs to deal with children who are exhibiting these behaviors. Federal, state, and district policies was also identified as something impacting their ability to properly handle the situations. Lastly, they reported limited access to mental health care. Of schools surveyed, 51% stated they were able to provide diagnostic mental health assessments to children exhibiting behaviors, and only 38% were providing treatment. So these behaviors could be the result of a number of traumatic events that a child might be experiencing, but instead, let's take a deeper look at its impact. 1 in 3 children under 18 have experienced an adverse childhood experience, or ACE, and 14% have experienced 2 or more. So what is an ACE? An ACE occurs in a child who has experienced his parents divorcing or separating, or perhaps deceased. A parent or nearby family member with addiction, be that gambling, drugs, or alcohol, experiencing parental violence or violence within their home or community, and a parent or family member who is in jail. These children displaying behaviors can be adversely affected, demonstrating emotional regulation difficulties, difficulty with impulse control, inattention, decreased cognition, and difficulty with forming relationships. These children are often diagnosed with 3 to 8 comorbid disorders, such as oppositional defiant disorder, ADHD, or disruptive mood dysregulation disorder. So how does it impact behavior in schools? Children who are not receiving adequate care at home often seek attention within the school system, even if that's in a negative way. They might be in a constant state of arousal. They might experience excessive fears and anxiety. Their frustration and aggression limits may be very low, and even in the face of small challenges, they might become aggressive. This level of aggression leads to decreased peer relationships or even decreased adult support, and those decreases in relationships result in a decrease in self-esteem. The impact goes far beyond the behaviors that are being displayed. Dr. Bessel van der Kolk spoke of these challenges in his book, The Body Keeps the Score. He spoke of the brain activity that is impacted in children who have experienced trauma. The amygdala acts as a child's smoke detector. It alarms and goes off at any perceived threat of danger and puts the child in a state of fight or flight, where it's nearly impossible to focus on the child's surroundings. The frontal lobes act as a watchtower. The watchtower is able to look around and to determine if there's a real level of threat or not. With children who have experienced trauma, there's a disconnect between those two parts of the brain, often keeping the child in that state of fight or flight. So what can help bring that connection back? Mindfulness and meditation. An activity of mindfulness as simple as looking around the room and identifying 5 things a child can taste, touch, smell, see, or hear can allow them to become more aware of their surroundings and understand that there is no real threat of danger, at least while they're at school. Breathing activities can help a child focus on their breath and become more calm. One example is starfish breathing, where a child will hold out all 5 fingers of their hand and use their opposite index finger to trace the outer borders of their hand, going up with their inhale and down with their exhale. Up with their inhale and down with their exhale. Back and forth, all the way to their pinky, and then returning. Give it a try and see if you feel calmer after doing so. With all of these challenging behaviors that are showing up in our school systems across the United States, it's time we start looking for resources and doing things a little bit differently. With a lack of funding, something as simple as mindfulness techniques and meditation breathing techniques that have proven to be helpful would be a huge help in classrooms across the states. The next time you're experiencing any frustration or your child, I invite you to give the starfish breathing a try, and remember that these calming techniques are right at your fingertips.